I'm just going to give the live a few minutes, let some people come in. But today I'm going to be talking about why most people fail at manifesting. So I'm going to go over some different things that we think in our everyday life that cause us to fail, and what we can do to fix it, and sort of what mentality to adopt. So hopefully it'll help you to manifest better. Now we'll just give it like 3 minutes. 3 minutes into the live. And then I'll go ahead and start. I'm actually starting a little late today. I actually don't like daylight savings time. All of a sudden, it's 1 hour ahead. Like we just lost a mysterious hour. It's like, great. Okay, here goes the time. But that kind of throws me off a little bit. So as I'm adjusting to the time, this is why I'm on a little later. But adjusting to the time is a whole other challenge. But it's a good thing they put it on the weekend. I feel like if you were to put it on a Sunday going into Monday, that would be awful. That would be a terrible thing. All right, we'll give it 1 more minute here. Hello, how you doing? Welcome in. Today I'm going to be talking about why most people fail at manifesting. I'm just going to go over why it is people fail and sort of what you can do to better your mindset, what it means to manifest, and sort of what gets in the way of manifesting. So I guess I'll go ahead and start. Yeah, it's been about 3 minutes. Okay. So the first point, why most people fail at manifesting, is usually because you try to control your outer circumstances. And what I mean is, when you get into trying to control your outer circumstances, for example, let's say you want somebody to think that you're a nice person. Generally, what happens is, what we usually do to convince somebody that we're a nice person is we try to convince them, okay? We go up to them and we say, well, I'm a nice person because of this reason, because of this, XYZ, all these things that we say. Rather than try to control people or convince people or do things outside of ourselves that we are a nice person, then what we should do actually is switch it and focus on ourselves. Because what we do is try to convince something outside of us. But it actually works in reverse, because if you were a nice person, for example, right, then that would just explain to other people that you are that. So essentially, whatever state that you have expresses itself outwardly by natural consequence. You don't have to do anything outside of yourself. You don't have to try to convince anyone. You don't have to control anybody. You don't have to manipulate anybody. You don't have to do any of these things, right? So it's all about switching states. It's all about changing who you are rather than focusing on your outside world. Everything starts from the inner world, from your inner state, essentially. And then it translates into your outer world. And that's how it works. So rather than manipulate people, control people, trying to do these things, it all starts from within. And this goes with anything, even finding a partner. So many people try to do this. They say things like, well, I want to get married and my dream partner has to have these qualities, has to have this income, this lifestyle. But rather than that, all we're supposed to do is embody those states within ourselves. So rather than look for the perfect partner, we become the perfect partner. The same way, like being a nice person. You don't try to convince someone you're nice. When you're looking for somebody to marry, you become that person and then you attract that within your experience, within your life. And that's how it works. So again, the switch happens from the outside attention-based consciousness to an inner focused state of consciousness, where now you're focusing on becoming, embodying, being, in other words. And a good question to ask yourself always is manifestation something that you do, or is it something that you become? Right? Sometimes I ask this question to people. And sometimes we associate manifestation with techniques, so with doing, right? But it's actually just something that you become. And becoming is a step process. So doing means that you focus on this technique, you focus on doing this thing, and if you do the technique good enough, or if you do this thing consistently enough, then you will manifest. But that will not work unless it changes your state of being or changes who you are in essence, if that makes sense. So manifestation is never about doing things or techniques. It's always about changing your state. The technique only helps in changing your state, and that's all. So that is why most people fail. It's not a technique thing. It's sort of a lifestyle. It's a way of being. That's what manifestation is. It's a change in consciousness. It is about making it as natural as possible. A lot of people want how to manifest your life in 10 days, like a lot of quick fixes. But in order to manifest effectively, it's much more than just doing things in a quick way, how to manifest money in a month, all these things. Those are usually like the viral manifestation people, right? But that's why you fail, because it's not something that you just do and then you stop. It's about understanding manifestation itself, understanding your inner world, your consciousness, and changing states, changing what state you are embodying. Because you can manifest something and then stay the same, and then continue to stay the same, and then struggle. And that's how it works a lot of the time. That's what causes a lot of failures. So you might hold two ideas at the same time. You might believe in manifestation, but then there is no deep foundation of what manifestation is. This is another reason why there's a lot of failures as well. Because you hold on to fear. You want to manifest. It's also not about manifesting only material things. It's about becoming, changing states, changing your experiences, your life itself. And hello, welcome to everybody coming in. I'm just talking about why most people fail at manifesting today. We're going over controlling outside circumstances, going over how we treat manifestation like a technique, and just going over how it's something that you become. It's a lifestyle. It's a thing that you become, a change in consciousness, not simply a quick fix or something that you just do casually. It's something that you become. It's something that you work towards. It's something you have to do every single day as well. It's not just something you do when you stop. But you hold these ideas, you hold two ideas, the fear and then the hope. So there's a Bible verse in which it says, in order to make it to heaven, right? You're supposed to sell everything that you have. And what this means symbolically and mystically in regards to manifestation is you have to let go of the fear itself and let go of who you used to be. Because the idea is you have to sell everything. So if you sell everything except one thing that you really value the most, that is still not enough to go to heaven. Or in other words, if you let go of your old self except for that one thing that you're really attached to about your old identity, then you will not be able to manifest. Because in order for you to manifest a better life, a marriage, a different experience, you have to let go of every little thing that you used to be, because who you used to be cannot enter into your new life, if that makes sense. So there has to be a letting go process. You have to let go of the old man, in other words, your old self. Let that take care of itself, leave it behind, and as you move forward, it is left back there, and it makes space for your new life. But if any part of it goes with you, then it'll continue to pull you back. And that's the hard part, because now you are battling within yourself. And hello from Israel. Wow. We're talking today about why people fail at manifestation. So we're just going over a few things here. And one of the other things I wanted to talk about too with manifesting as well, and why there's a lot of failures as well, is because you're looking for signs. So this is something I speak about a lot. In manifestation, there shouldn't be a lot of looking for signs outwardly, because then this is looking for proof. One of the first points I made today was about how you try to control your outside world and looking at your physical reality to try to convince yourself that you're manifesting, or trying to convince others of who you are. There's nobody to convince, and there's nobody to really speak to except yourself. And it's the same way when you're looking for signs, because when you're looking for signs, this simply means that you're looking for something outside of yourself to give you confirmation that you are indeed manifesting. But in manifestation, everything happens inside of yourself, within you. So if you're looking outside, you're pretty much admitting by side effect that what you are looking for is outside of you. And I speak about this so much because this is our natural instinct to just simply say, well, it's obviously not working because I haven't seen it, because I'm still living the same life that I'm going through. And this is going to be hard because you're essentially living two lives. You're living the life that you're trying to manifest, you're imagining, you're meditating, and at the same time you're living your everyday life. But what you're doing is, this is the problem. You have to balance the life that you are living versus where you are going. So as I mentioned before, manifestation is not something that you do, it is something that you become. Becoming is a step process. So if you are doing already the meditation, the imagining, then you are already embodying the state you are becoming. You already are the thing that you want to become. You are already completed. So then you're just waiting for the 3D reality to catch up. So in other words, there is no proof for you to see outside of yourself. You're just waiting for it to show you eventually. But then you're not waiting to see for it to happen, to confirm what you already know within yourself. Because when you're manifesting, it's already completed. So there's no point in saying, well, I'm trying to manifest a marriage, but I haven't met anybody yet. You're still thinking from your old state. So what you're doing now, again, you're putting your consciousness out here, where you're saying, well, it's not happening because I don't see anything happening. So you have to be very careful with that. Don't look for signs outside of yourself. You should feel it within yourself, always. That is your proof. When you see something within yourself, you feel it. This is how you think from the end. And what I mean by the end is with your manifestation already fulfilled. So whatever it is, if you want to get married, if you want money, if you want a better job, you think from that state, who is that person in the end? Is he more calm? Is he more patient? You are becoming that person. So there's no need to look for those signs. Look for those signs within yourself, not outside of you. If you're acting like a different person, if you feel like a different person, that is exactly what will get you into your manifestation. Not by looking outside of yourself. Do not ever look outside of yourself. Don't ever look for proof, because you will never find it. The proof is within yourself. And one of my favorite Bible verses to describe this is Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So in other words, everything that happens in your physical reality first exists in yourself. There is no evidence outside of you first. The evidence is within you. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So faith simply means having that assurance before you can even feel it in physical reality. You first feel it within yourself. This is the substance. This is faith. having that within you. And if you can keep that up for a long time, becoming the person you want to be, being, then it must happen in your physical reality. So hopefully that made sense for everybody. Feel free to ask any questions. This can get a little complicated sometimes. And I always feel like I bring it very complicated. I'm trying to sort of explain it the best way I can. But hopefully that makes sense. And manifestation too. Your life always reflects your inner state. So if you were to ask yourself the question, if my inner state is reflected by my outer reality, then what is my inner state? You know, if the outer state makes it obvious what you are thinking within yourself, then it serves to always remind you of what is happening within yourself. A lot of people don't take the time to actually think about what's happening, but it's obvious when you look around. So keep that in mind always when you're trying to manifest what is happening in my outer world and then apply it to your inner state. But don't look at your outer world as everything in your life. It is just simply a reflection. And the reflection is, if you want to change the reflection itself, change the image, which is you. You don't change what's in the mirror by blocking out the mirror. And that's what we do a lot of the times when we try to control our outer reality, our physical reality. All we got to do is change ourselves. So if we're looking at ourselves in the mirror and we see a smudge on our face, you don't go to the mirror and you block it out. You just wipe it off your face like this. So that's a simple illustration there. But just ask yourself on a regular basis, what are the things that you hold in your everyday life that stop you? What are your fears? What are the things that really affect you? Is it fear of judgment? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of the unknown? Because those are the things that'll get you. And I feel as though fear of the unknown is a big one. And this is because the way the mind works likes to work in familiar cycles. And I'll explain that one in a little bit. So the first question here, okay, let's see. How do you live daily life while still trying to maintain a manifestation state that isn't here yet? Okay, so I speak about this one. I call this one living in two worlds. So this one is like you mentioned. You're living a state of the wish fulfilled, and then you're also living here on earth, right? So it's like you're living in two states. But if it feels like you're living in two states, then it means that what is actually happening is you are not living in that state because you're still living in the old one. You want to get to the point where it feels like there's only one state, where it's you thinking from the end or embodying your manifestation completely. You want to feel one, in other words. Now, in the Bible, it says a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. And essentially, what that means is if you feel like you're living in the middle, between, then the manifestation is going to struggle, because it's like riding in a taxi and then telling the taxi driver, I want to go to New York and I want to go to California. It's like, well, which one do you want to go to? They're on two different places. One is like in the northeast and the other one is on the west. So you have to pick one. It's like, well, I want to go to New York. That's it. So you just embody that one. And then when you're living your life here, you maintain that state, although you are living in a different world, essentially. But you are maintaining the state within yourself. All right, let me see here. If it's about the inner state reflecting out, why is it that sometimes we see people that seem to defy that by their own self-reporting? Rich people say that they feel poor. Okay, that's a good one, because this is subjective. A rich person that says they're poor feels poor, although they have a lot of riches. So essentially what's happening is they don't actually see what they have, or being ungrateful, in other words. So for example, this can happen with people who are lonely. Some people feel lonely and they have a bunch of friends, they have a bunch of family. So this is a state of mind. So although you have the physical thing, it's not matching. You don't feel as though you are fulfilled. So if you have money, you have riches, right? Then you don't feel it, you don't see it. You're still another person and you're not actually enjoying or feeling what you have. The same way with being lonely. You may have friends, you may have family, but you still feel like it's not good enough. So it has nothing to do essentially with what's happening outside of you. It's all internal. So you have to learn to switch states and see what it is you have, but most importantly, embrace the feeling of being fulfilled within yourself, because it happens a lot. You can feel lonely, you can feel broke, you can feel miserable in the middle of whatever you're going through. It can be out superficially great outside of you, but you can still be depressed and anxious. But that's what I mean when I say manifestation is not about just material things. It's also about changing your experiences and changing the relationship with yourself. Because a lot of times manifestation is just about manifesting things. But if you have everything and you still feel miserable, then that is when manifestation can help you to feel better. Because it's about experiencing fulfillment, if that makes sense. And the next question here. Beautiful people that say they feel fat and ugly. That's a good one too, because it goes into the same idea where if I said you were pretty, you were beautiful, you were fantastic, you were great, but you don't believe that, what does it matter really? What matters is what you think of yourself, what you believe about yourself. Because if I said that about somebody who actually was beautiful or whatever, then who's right and who's wrong? Essentially, it doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. What matters is what that person really believes, because it's not even about if they are ugly or not. It's about whether they feel it. So the feeling within itself feels terrible. It feels awful. So then you're just making a terrible experience while not experiencing out in the physical world. Everybody can think that you're attractive and beautiful, but then your inner world is just suffering because of that feeling of feeling ugly. And you also see it in reverse as well, where people that are not very attractive can think that they're attractive, and that's fine. You wonder, like, how can this person be so confident? But it works for them. And that is essentially, good for them, because it helps them navigate through life and everything. So that's what it should be about, having those states within ourselves. But essentially that teaches you that it's all about belief too. It's not about actually what is real and what isn't. It's about what you believe within yourself. All right, let's see here. People seem to have tangible things even though they report the opposite. Yeah, I get that. I don't feel any physical thing will bring me ultimate happiness. Yeah. Another thing about manifestation as a system is the state of fulfillment brings you things by itself. So if you feel fulfilled, then you have typically friends, you have better experiences, better material things, because the state of being fulfilled brings you that by consequence. So that's how it works as well. So you don't have to try to get the friends first, like if you're lonely, because if you feel lonely and then you get friends, you will still feel lonely, and you actually may feel even more alone with people just pointing out things that make you feel worse. So it's important for you to focus on yourself first before you even go out and do anything. And this goes with anything, really. Even like if you have money and you still feel broke, you still feel broke because that's just what you feel like. The lived experience is more important than the actual thing. I would say so, because in the subjective world is where you feel the most. This is where you feel the state that you are in. You don't really feel the state outside of yourself as much. And this is obvious by the way that you feel. There's a lot of people, you see celebrities where they have everything they could possibly want, but they do a lot of drugs. They're looking for that thing that will fill them, because you're just always looking for something. And essentially in spirituality, we call this being hungry, having desire. Because once you have everything that you ever wanted, right? Physically, materially, then what? You're going to want more and more and more and more. You see this with people who have a lot of money. They just want more and more and more. It's like, what are you going to do with all that money? You're going to get a fancier suit? Are you going to get a better jet? There's nothing else to get. There's nothing else to buy, but there's still a void. So it's at some point, manifestation turns from getting material things to just feeling fulfilled. Because if you were fulfilled, you would essentially be satisfied. And there's no need to do anything else, but just really enjoy what you have already. And it could be more than you already wanted. So essentially, there's just a feeling of more and more. And it doesn't end. And it is a mentality, yeah. It's a mentality because that is what you feel, again, the most. So if you were to have this, right? So ask yourself the question, whatever your problem is, if you were to have it right now, how would that make you feel? If that thing by itself makes you feel great, then that's fine. But then over time, you would want something else. And then ask yourself another question. What is it that you would want after that? And then continue going. Allow your mind to just go and be free. For example, if you don't have money, ask yourself the question, if I had $1 million, what would I do? How would I feel? So most people would say, okay, I feel great. I feel fantastic. I would get a house. I would do this. I would do that. But then $1 million runs out. And then what? It's like, well, I want another one. I want another million. And it just keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. It's like that with everything, even with marriage. You say, I want the perfect partner. Okay, you have the perfect partner. Now what? I want a house with them. Okay, now what? It just keeps going. So what I'm saying is the nature of desire continues and never really ends. But where manifestation solves this problem is the fulfillment of the desire, always dwelling in the end. As you manifest the next thing and the next thing. So you can always feel calm about it, where there's no sense of anticipation or I need the next big thing. As I mentioned before, celebrities, a lot of them do, after they have everything, all the success, they feel the emptiness. And so you wonder, where does that come from? If I was a celebrity, I would feel completely happy. But then it's like, how do you know? There's a lot of these celebrities that do drugs, that do things, we're always looking for something else, the next big thrill, the next big thing. And that's what I want to make apparent here. Desire never ends. They say that desire is the cause of all suffering. So it's important to stop that desire. The way you stop that desire is within yourself, feeling the state of fulfillment. Essentially, desire means that you don't have, so then you want. It's always wanting. So if you stop the desire, if you stop the wanting, you stop the hunger, essentially, then you are satisfied. And that's it. That happens within yourself. So essentially, to answer the question, it's most important to fulfill yourself from within, not from the outside. So if you do that from within first, the outside world rearranges to how you feel, because it's simply a reflection. And it doesn't really matter what's happening outside of you. Yeah, it's a loop. Thought, desire, and action. But yeah, it's always like that. It always comes up. That's why it's very comparative to hunger. because you may eat your favorite food, but then you'll get hungry again. So it just continues. And the same way the physical body has to eat every single day, you also must do that mentally within yourself. Or in other words, the way the Bible describes it, eat your daily bread. So your daily bread is the mental sustenance that fills your essence, not just your body. Your body is just a reflection of what happens mentally. So everything can be compared this way, even your physical body. And that's a good way to understand desire, hunger, wanting, missing something. When you're hungry, you're empty. So what do you got to do? You have to eat. So when you feel empty mentally, you have to consume something mentally. You have to consume different states of being, because if you stay in that way, the pain continues, the suffering continues, and then the emptiness becomes more and it becomes deeper. And this is what we call depression. But essentially what depression is just making it apparent to us that we're missing something. So then as we learn to not see depression as a bad thing, but just simply making it apparent to what our problem is, if we learn to manifest and learn to meditate and use our imagination, use our mind, make manifestation natural, then it becomes a lot easier to manage depression, manage what goes on within our own psyche, within our own head. So it's not, manifestation turns from simply a physical thing to something that you can experience, peace within yourself. Another thing about manifestation as well that goes into why people fail a lot is it's not about forcing it either. It should be something natural. All right, let me see this one. Sometimes it feels like changing your inner state is just a lie. You tell yourself to cope with not getting the thing you want. Is that just a trick of the ego? So it does feel like that. So the way that I understand it and the way that it's explained in like spiritual circles and everything like that is, this is the way we naturally understand the world. We understand that using our imagination, meditating, and just being in la la land, essentially daydreaming, is something that is not important because we have to go out and do something about our life. And so one of the first things I spoke about in this live was we fail at manifesting because we try to control the outside world. We try to manipulate people. We try to do things out here first. The last thing we do, or the least effective thing we think will work, is meditating, is imagining, is manifesting. We always think our first reaction should be, well, I need to go do something. I need to go out and look for my manifestation out here in the physical reality. But this is the way that we think naturally as human beings. So we're in a state sort of being a human, becoming a spiritual, entity, raising our consciousness, essentially, learning to manifest. So our human animalistic way of thinking is like this. We have to go out and do things physically. We have to learn to change the way we think, thinking from, if I go out and do this, it's going to work. But there's a lot of people that work, or do things, try to force things, and then things never happen, or things happen in a negative way. We have to learn how to use our mind, use our imagination to get what we want now, because this is where we are transitioning to. So a good way to understand this is we have an imagination. We're able to meditate, we're able to daydream, we're able to be creative. And if you look at the word creative, it means to create. This is like, creating a painting, but it also ties into the imagination. So ask yourself the question, why is it that we have an imagination? Is it just simply to create a beautiful painting or to create like cartoons or movies? It's actually tied into something much bigger. To be creative, to imagine, is to create the world around you. So it is in some ways a trick of the ego. It's a trick of what we call the lower mind, the animal mind, the flesh mind, the natural man, in other words. where we feel like we have to work so hard. In the Bible, this is described as always the two brothers. This is the struggle between the spirit and the flesh nature that we have. So Cain and Abel is the first one, where Cain was a tiller of the ground. Now this represents all the hard work that we think we have to do to manifest. A tiller of the ground means somebody that does things physically. So the ground is, you're plowing the ground, which is physical earth. Now, Abel was watching the sheep. And it's always like this in the Bible. It's always that trend. There's always the guy who works on the farm, he works really hard, and then the other guy who works on the sheep. And it's the guy who always works on the sheep is the favored one and the one that gets the inheritance. And it's funny because you look at it literally and it's like, well, what does it have to do with anything? Because the guy who's working on the farm, he's working so hard, he should, somebody should throw him a bone. But what that means symbolically is all that hard work that we do, essentially, it's not that it doesn't have a point or a place. It's just that you don't have to do all of that. So the keeper of the sheep essentially just means embracing your spiritual nature more, using your imagination. Things should be a lot easier than you just working on the field all the time. In other words, it's about using your imagination, letting things happen to you, not forcing them. So with Cain being a tiller of the ground, this represents forcing. You are breaking the earth, in other words. So this is symbolic for going out and forcing things to happen. So in other words, this would look like if you want to find the perfect partner or to get money, you go out in the world and you try to make it happen. You really look for it. On the other side, you embrace the spiritual nature, and that would be embodying the state of already being married or already having more money. And this is very foreign to our flesh nature, our lower mind, because it's incompatible. It's two different states or two different brothers in the Bible. You have the one, the farmer, the crude one, the brute, and you have the keeper of the sheep, the more gentle one. So it's about integrating both, but just understanding that you have an imagination and your imagination has a purpose to really feel and to be used and to use it in the way that it was meant to be used. But again, it's usually discouraged and it's not spoken about at all a lot of the time. So that's the trick, and that's the balance, because it can feel like a trick you're playing on yourself. Another example I can give you beside Cain and Abel is Jacob and Esau. Again, like, if it's confusing, let me know, but I'm glad it was helpful. But Jacob and Esau, essentially, Esau was born red and he was the hunter. It's the same principle. He was the hunter, he was the wild man, he was hairy, and red is symbolic for your emotions, your emotional nature, or that fire that burns within you to want to get things done. The hunter, the one who goes out and looks for things. And then Jacob, again, the one who watches the sheep, the one who does the lighter work. And he's the one that gets the inheritance, not Esau. And it's like that across the board. So you don't want to look outside of yourself. You don't want to go out and kill yourself anymore. You want to learn how to use these principles. And remember, it's not something that you force. It's something that you let happen. It comes to you. And then the work that you do naturally gets you there. As you put yourself in the end state, it comes to you. It's sort of like a middle ground. You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to fight. You don't have to force anything. If you're forcing it, typically that means that that state wasn't fully established within yourself. But then that's fine, because that's the way that your mind works. Your mind doesn't work in understanding things very rapidly. So you want to learn how to build it up slowly. So for example, if you are in a current state and your state is really far away from where you want it to be, then you build it in states. You first start by thinking about it, getting used to the idea. As you get used to the idea, you naturally put yourself in the idea. You don't force yourself in there, and it happens gradually. You don't want to force it. You don't want to feel like it has to be done today. You don't feel like there's a sense of urgency. Be patient with yourself. Don't judge yourself. Let it be natural. Sort of like a flower. You don't force the petals to open, because once that happens, you already ruined the whole thing. Just be gentle. Don't force it. And just let it happen. So one of the things that I want to mention as well with this whole thing was that in manifestation, it's not about techniques. It's not about, I'm going to do this because that's essentially work as well. It's never about doing more. It's usually about doing less or removing things. So it just can be different. I speak a lot about reverse thinking. And the reason I talk about that is because the way we naturally think is the reverse on how we're supposed to think. So I'll give you my favorite analogy here. And this is another reason why a lot of times we fail at manifesting, because you have to learn how to switch the way that we think. If we want to manifest, of course. So a simple equation. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Hopefully you guys can see. I know it's like reversed on here. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Now, if 2 plus 2 equals 4, then 4 equals 2 plus 2. It's interchangeable. So what this means is this. If you had your manifestation today, ask yourself the question. If you had your manifestation, how would you feel? What would it look like? So you would feel happy, you would feel satisfied, you would feel fulfilled. So then, if you feel satisfied, happy, and fulfilled, then that equals your manifestation. So it goes in reverse. So if you held that state long enough, it would happen. Because it's interchangeable. It's like a math equation. But now what happens is we continue following the loop of looking outside of ourselves, finding the proof that our manifestation does not exist, then continue that loop. So we say, well, I want a better life, I want a better experience, but I don't see it out here. So we're confirming what we're seeing out here and then continuing to manifest that, because now we feel like we're unfulfilled and we feel like it's never going to happen. So as we feel that, that continues to happen. But we never actually break the cycle and sort of give ourselves a different way to feel, a different way to see things. And if you did that, then everything else would change by consequence, because life is reacting to you now. It's like, okay, well, Howard switched his way of being. What does that mean? All right, let's adjust everything to fit him, if that makes sense. Life, you're not a victim to life. Life is waiting for you. Life is merely reacting to you, reacting to your states, reacting to who you are, and reflecting it outwardly. And that's what manifestation is. So when you understand this, switching how you think, changing the way you see things, understanding things, that is essentially what manifestation is. And then it'll be harder for you to fail at it. Hello, I see you. If it's for the benefit of all and not self-centered, yeah. Now, here's something that I want to make clear too, because I get asked this a lot, because manifestation does seem like something selfish sometimes. But there's two things. You becoming the best version of yourself is essentially helping others around you. And manifestation is not just about material things. It's about your experiences themselves. Another thing is, if you are constantly watching yourself, watching your emotions, your feelings, and you are constantly fulfilling yourself, there is no negative emotions that live within you. In other words, what I'm saying is that feeling of emptiness and feeling of something missing is usually what causes a lot of pain and suffering. And then having an experience within yourself that is painful, suffering, full of fear, brings in a lot of things, pain outside of yourself, pain and suffering in your immediate reality as well. So if you learn how to fulfill yourself, remove those fears, remove the suffering from within your own experience, it becomes a lot harder for you to want to have bad things to happen to other people. So essentially, when you understand manifestation to its fullest extent, as not just something that you do, but a lifestyle of peace and fulfillment, there is nothing that you can do to want to cause harm to people. And it can't be selfish, because you're becoming the best version of yourself that you can be and reflecting that outward to the world, where you're helping others, you're uplifting others, you're helping others become the best version that they can be. If someone's stuck in the mud, you help uplift them, in other words, because you're out. So you want naturally everybody to be out as well. You don't want anyone to suffer. So it becomes something much more than just what people think. It's not something selfish, self-centered. It's about you becoming, how do I say, you becoming better and helping the world become better as well. I'm glad you like it. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions, but that pretty much wraps it up here. But I'll leave it open for any other questions anyone has. But that's my spiel for today. Why we fail at manifesting. But it just goes into understanding things differently, seeing the world differently, just understanding things, expanding your awareness, expanding your consciousness. That's essentially what it is. At least the way that I like to see it. I don't really believe in a lot of the, manifest this in 10 days and, all these things. It's just about making it become natural, raising your awareness. Oh, I see a new live time. Well, it's going to be at 8 still. It's just that today it was a little off because we just changed the time. I'm in Florida, so I'm in the Eastern Standard Time, but the time changed. And I'm still going to do it at 8. I just need some time to adjust because, all of a sudden it's like an hour ahead. So I was like, okay. Just adjusting because technically this is the time I do it in the old time. So I just have to get used to it essentially. But yeah, next week it'll be at 8, the same time or the new time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Florida. So that'll be the time. But yeah, I don't enjoy this time. I always I'm like a fall, winter person. I like the standard time. I don't like daylight savings as much. So yeah, it's that was my message for today. Let your consciousness expand, let your awareness unfold, and that'll help you tremendously in manifesting. That's the message for today. So why most people fail at manifesting? Don't fall a lot for the manifest this in 10 minutes, all that stuff. It's much deeper than that. I like to think that it's not a superficial thing. For me, it's very spiritual. It's everything, not just a quick fix. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll be on next week for sure. I'll be on next week at 8 p.m. So stay tuned for them. You guys can always reach out in my channel. You guys can ask any questions there. Give me recommendations as well. If you guys want me to talk about anything in particular, you can always drop me a message and I'll answer any questions that you guys have. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. But yeah, I do want to do these consistently. So far, it's been consistent, but as I get used to doing these and everything, I do want to just make it a bigger thing and everything like that. So, do I practice sacred dance or anything like that? I actually don't. I'm actually a terrible dancer. But if that's something that you would like to do, you can always feel free to do that. I also like to say that meditation is not just, simply sitting down and imagining. Something meditative can be something like dance. So if that works for you, then, that's perfect. But yeah, with that, I'll see you guys next week. I hope you guys have a good week, and I'll see you guys then. Thank you.